Hello, today I'm speaking with Dr. Shaina Clemons. She is the author of Mom Strong, Pregnancy and Beyond, this book here, which is linked down in the description below in case you want to look at it. We're going to be talking about this book as well as Dr. Clemons' expertise. She's also the owner of a company called Breakaway Physical Therapy, where she specializes in pelvic floor treatment. Welcome to the channel here. Thanks for joining us today, Dr. Clemons.
Thanks so much, David. Happy to be here.
So I want to get to know you a bit and just figure out how you got into pelvic floor, because I can tell you it is nowhere near my expertise. First off, I'm male. I don't think there's very many males in your expertise. And I just like joints and knees, spine, shoulders. That's definitely my bread and butter. But how did you get into this? I'm interested.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started as a staff PT, just treating different ortho conditions. So joint replacements, chronic back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, those sorts of things. And I was really enjoying it. I loved my patients. I always say I have the best patients. And I wasn't really looking for anything more. I was, where I was working, I kind of got pushed into treating the pelvic floor. And you know, I was hesitant at first, and my biggest hesitation was because when I went to physical therapy school, I went to University of Maryland in Baltimore, and it's a 3-year program, which is pretty standard. And we had 1 day on pelvic floor physical therapy. So I didn't really have a good knowledge base. I didn't have any experience. And I think a big thing that they were missing was how the pelvic floor related to the rest of the body. So I just didn't see the connection piece. And so that was kind of what held me back. But I eventually said, okay, you know, I'll start to treat some of these patients. And I started seeing people for incontinence. And they would tell me that they didn't want to leave their house. They didn't want to go to church. They didn't want to go to the grocery store because they were leaking so bad. And after working together, we were able to get them back to going to church with their family and going out to the grocery store and not even thinking about their bladder. So I just saw it was such a huge quality of life factor. And I just truly enjoyed it, and I became really passionate about it. And then I was encouraged to start seeing some people for pelvic pain. And I really wanted to learn more because I just felt it was important to be able to educate my patients. And so I took my first pelvic floor class. And I think that's a class that you go to and either you walk away and you find your thing, or you walk away and say, oh, maybe this isn't for me. And so I absolutely realized this is 100% my passion and just totally fell in love with it. Fast forward, as you said, my husband and I opened a clinic, Breakaway Physical Therapy, in 2015. And so it is an outpatient orthopedic clinic, and we have a specialty in pelvic health to be able to help all of these people, which include women, men, and kids for different pelvic floor conditions.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Now, how did you get to the point where you thought, I'm going to write a book on this stuff? Because I'm sure you saw the need for this and just so many people suffering from problems. How'd you get to this?
So my husband is, and I wrote this in the acknowledgments of the book, he is my biggest fan. And I always say he believes in me before I believe in myself. And so he had said, like, you're going to write a book, you're going to write a book. And I said, I don't really know. And as I continued treating pelvic floor, we started having a family and grew our family. And I myself went through very different birthing experiences, from a C-section to a vaginal birth, unmedicated births. And I just saw the toll that it took on the body and just how much changes and the lack of healthcare that we give to the moms. When we're pregnant, we see the OBGYN all the time. You're in their office round the clock. And after you have a baby, you're in the office, 2 times maybe for some postpartum checks. And then it's, I'll see it in a year, right? And you're spending all of your time at the pediatrician. And so I just saw there wasn't enough information and just healthcare for moms. And I also, a long time ago, my mom told me that my body would change after I have kids. And, as we get older, we realize our moms are right, but it takes time to get there. And once I started having kids, I saw, wow, yeah, my body really did change. And I just see, the movies and everything out there is telling us, get your body back, get back in shape. And I realized that isn't exactly what happens. As a mom, your body changes, your life changes, your relationships change. And so I really wanted to put that out there and to tell people that all the things that do happen that no one wants to tell you about, and that your body really does change, and that's okay. And it's just, we need to take that time to kind of find our new norm. So that was how we kind of landed on it.
That's so cool. And the body does change a lot. And one of the things we were talking about right before we got on is how we both have 4 children. And I've gotten the perspective of the husband, the father, of course. And I heard it all. I think my wife's still the most beautiful woman on earth. But she reminds me of how her body's changed after each and every kid. And, one of those things that I bump into in the clinic all the time is incontinence problems. Like I run into women all the time that for back pain problems, what I'm seeing them for, hip pain problems. And they mentioned to me, I'm afraid to jump on the trampoline with my kids, or I was doing some jumping jacks with the kids and that got me. I sneezed or coughed really hard, last week and had to go change after that. And then the other one is the diastasis rectus. That one I get all the time. And because as a physical therapist in my realm, I'm helping people with back problems. I have to look at abdominals all the time. And whenever I bring up abdominal weakness, right away, moms that have had kids, of course, they're telling me, have you ever seen this before? And they're showing me their gap on their stomach. And they're like, my stomach does not look the same as from, before I had kids. So, of course, you wrote all about that in this book. And you have awesome pictures of demonstrations of different exercises that you can do. Here you're talking about the pelvic floor, and there's a section on a diastasis rectus as well, where those abdominals are separating. But just, can you give the audience a little bit, maybe something they can do at home to start getting the problem, besides going to a pelvic floor specialist or maybe even visiting you out in, I'm so sorry, where are you? Maryland, you're in Maryland. What can somebody do at home right now dealing with incontinence problems after pregnancy and for diastasis recti?
Yeah, so with incontinence, we see this all the time, and a lot of women just accept it because they've been told, oh, of course that's going to happen when you have kids. So it's something that we really love to work with moms on, and at any age. It's never too late to be able to make a difference in this. So the most important thing when you have stress incontinence is you need to find out what's actually happening, right? So we need to know what's the underlying problem, because sometimes our pelvic floor muscles, which they sit under our bladder and can really contribute to this problem, sometimes they're too strong and sometimes they're too weak. And so what we need to do is figure out what's happening. And so if you've ever done a Kegel or a Kegel, I'm going to talk you through that. So imagine that you're in the bathroom and you're sitting on the toilet and someone walks in and you have to quickly stop your flow of urine, right? So that feeling of, oh my goodness, I have to stop peeing right now, okay? Now, one thing to really remember is you don't want your butt, your big glute muscles to work. If you're doing a Kegel properly, no one should know that you're doing it. And so there's so many different types and different analogies that we can use to help people really understand where these muscles are and how to use them. So another important piece would be, if you start to do these and your symptoms worsen, make sure you stop right away. Okay. And the second piece would be make sure that you're doing them properly. We see that a lot where women come in and they say, hey, I've been doing all my Kegels and I don't understand why nothing's changing, and come to find out they're just not being done properly. Okay. And then in terms of, working with women that have a diastasis, so, as I mentioned in my book, It's completely normal in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy that our abdominals separate. And for many women after they have a baby, they don't naturally come back together. Some women, they do. It just depends on your body. And so we want to naturally make sure that we're able to use and isolate the correct abdominals. But the other big piece is what to prevent. So think about after you have a baby and you're trying to just get back into activity, what happens? You might search for some videos on YouTube, or you might try a Beachbody workout or work with a local trainer at the gym, right? And what we've been conditioned to think is I should do crunches and sit-ups and planks and burpees, and that is going to get my abdominals strong. So what I would recommend is avoid all of those until you're able to see someone who can give you the information of where is your body at, right? Like how big of a separation do you have? And then that, therapist, that pelvic floor therapist can check you and give you correct exercises for your body, no matter where your starting line is at.
Awesome. Great advice. Yeah, I often will send people over to the pelvic floor specialist here locally just because I am at a loss what to do. It's such a specialty. And that was really interesting with the Kegel thing, because I feel like I need to help somebody when they're here and they tell me about them having a leaking problem, and I tell them Kegels, I guess, I'm not really the best person, and they all kind of know what a Kegel is, but because there's a specialty in pelvic floor, I'm just like, there's got to be more to it. And as you were talking there, I was Kegeling without anybody knowing, of course, and I can feel my glutes want to fire. And that's something I talk a lot about on my channel, is getting glutes to fire for other problems. And even I've heard other therapists fire everything: glutes, the pelvic floor, the abdominals, just to get like a Valsalva, like a bracing maneuver around. But so you're saying that you need to have like independent control of the Kegel muscles and not fire other muscles. Am I right?
Yeah, so we want to isolate those muscles out. And so I always say glutes and pelvic floor are best friend. So if one muscle group is tight, the other one you're probably going to find is tight too, right? Because best friends do what the other one's doing. But we want to be able to isolate out our pelvic floor and have our glutes be quiet. So, we have lots of different tips and tricks on how to do that when someone's really struggling and, getting their glutes involved and they can't quite figure out, how do I just let them go and just use these super small muscles that I can barely feel? So it's fun.
And with the diastasis rectus, everybody's worried because the last thing they want is to make it worse. And so they're so confused about what exercise to do, which one to avoid, how to do it right. And there's just so much confusion about it. And I kind of guide people in the right direction, but I'm always like, check yourself, make sure it doesn't hurt, make sure you're not worse. It's not worse. And so I appreciate that. That's great. I'm so happy to have bought the book and learned from my own clinical knowledge too. So thank you for putting that together. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So if someone were to go to your general doctor, your OBGYN, and they have like a diastasis rectus problem or an incontinence problem after pregnancy, what would be the typical treatment that they would get? That, because I know pelvic floor treatment is not mainstream at this time. Am I right in saying that?
Honestly, it depends on who you're working with. One of the biggest things we can do is educate others. So the more that we can inform, the practitioners that we work with and inform moms, then the more people are going to take that initiative. But it's more common than not that women will go for their 6-week postpartum check and they say, hey, like I'm having some leakage, or, ooh, like I just feel like my abs are not right. Like they're pushing out and they just don't come together when I'm trying to hold my baby and my baby's only getting bigger. And they'll say, hey, look, get back to all your regular exercises and activities, and we'll see you in a year. So that's unfortunately the standard of care in the United States. And I know I mentioned in my book many times that in France, every woman is sent for pelvic floor PT after they have a baby. And that's just because I feel strongly that that should be our standard of care here. And so then when women don't get better in time, and maybe things worsen because, again, their baby or maybe their older kids are getting bigger and they're trying to get back into, like you said, jumping on a trampoline with their kids, and they say, wow, now I'm really leaking. They don't typically go back to their doctor, right? They say, well, I need to wait that year mark, or maybe they start to search on the internet. And so they'll search for different solutions or, exercises on YouTube to try to figure out, how can I fix this on my own? So that's what we commonly see until, they come in for treatment to see a pelvic floor physical therapist.
Yeah. Now, I think that every pregnant mom should be gifted this book. Like when we got pregnant with our first, somebody gifted us, we got a bunch of books. One of the first ones we got was What to Expect When You're Expecting. I'm sure every mom has heard of that book. And it was interesting. We got some other ones. I think it was a Happiest Baby on the Block was another one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And after reading this, I read it cover to cover. I was like, oh my gosh, this was what we went through. I wish we would have known all this stuff going into it, because all the changes that you don't expect. Because one of the lines that you wrote in here that I was like, yeah, that's totally true, was all the focus is on mom when they're pregnant, and then as soon as baby comes out, it's forget mom, it's all about the baby. And poor mom's dealing with a lot, especially if she had to go through a C-section or is having complications afterwards. The worst one of the things that stands out about our experience was the contractions that my wife got with nursing afterwards. She was like, what the heck is going on? And then she was looking into it, she was researching it, and she's like, oh, this is normal, but golly, was not expecting that. I was so worried that something was wrong.
They don't tell you about that. And I remember with each of my babies, I kind of forgot. And I was like, oh man, this is terrible, right? I just went through this. This is not fair.
Yep.
But, babies are super cute. They're totally worth it. Amazing, amazing children. But.
Oh, yep. I want more, but I think 4 is good for us right now.
Good for you. You go for it.
Oh, well, guys, if you haven't gotten the book, if you know somebody that is pregnant or planning on it, or even if they've already had kids, I got this book a little while back to start reading it, and my wife found it on my nightstand, and she started picking it up and looking through it too, and was just so interested. So any recent moms or soon-to-be moms would definitely benefit from this. Would you agree? Is there another population that I'm missing?
No, I agree. I think anyone, that's a mom or wants to become a mom, because we see women in, their 60s or 70s, and they're still dealing with things after having kids, because it was just normal to just deal with it. And then now they realize, wow, I don't have to live like this. And I want to jump on the trampoline with my grandkids. This is really bothering me. So it's definitely never too late. And I love, one of my patients said she's now giving it at every baby shower. That's her gift.
That's what should be done. I think that's where this book fits for sure. Well, where can people find out more about you? And do you have anything else going on? You mentioned some training program. I wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah, so my clinic, Breakaway Physical Therapy, is located in Crofton, Maryland, and our website is www.breakawaypt.com. There's tons of information on our website. We have a blog, and it covers lots of different topics, outside of pelvic floor. So if you're just looking for, some good health information, please visit it. And in one of my overall missions, which is just to spread awareness of pelvic floor physical therapy, I've recently started another business. It's called My Pelvic Mentor. And so I'm working with physical therapists to be able to teach them how to treat pelvic floor PT. As you saw in my book, it covers so many different things. And so when you start to get into this field, it's really overwhelming because you don't know where to start. And so having a mentorship program and, starting to put on some of these events, I can really help and support therapists and, accelerate, help improve their confidence so that they don't have to wait all these years and go through all of these courses. They can, have the knowledge and the support that they deserve to be able to treat their patients. So, yeah.
So this is for physical therapists only, or PTAs, physical therapist assistants?
Oh, absolutely. PTAs as well. Yep, I have PTs and PTAs in my office as well. So
cool. You gave me an email address. Let me pull it up here. Is that the one right there? So if somebody wants to get in contact with you about the pelvic floor mentorship program, right there's a place to go, right?
Yep,
Cool.
you got it.
So good that you're doing that, because like I went through a formal program for manual therapy, which is my specialty. But I've never heard of a formal program for pelvic floor. Is there one, or is this it, pretty much the beginnings of it?
So they have basic courses. There's some different, two main foundations out there. And so they have, 3 to 4 pelvic floor courses. And so, you learn the basics, but what I see, it's like a crash course, right? You go and you learn all this information in 3 days and you're like, this is amazing. And what do I do with all of it? So, the purpose of my mentorship is to be able to spread it out, to be able to take the knowledge and apply it, but apply some of it, not be overwhelmed, and then to be able to clinically talk through cases. It's a cool program. It's really fun. I'm loving it.
That's awesome. Well, fantastic. Dr. Clemons' book here is available on Amazon. The link is in the description below, and all of her other social media links are also linked below, as well as this email address that you see on screen right now, in case you're a therapist or a therapist assistant and you want to reach out to Dr. Clemons about getting mentored for pelvic floor, to specialize in pelvic floor. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise. And guys, go get the book, gift it to somebody at their baby shower. They need this for sure. My best friend just had a baby. I'm gifting this to his wife.
Thank you, David. It was great to be able to be on here. And again, just to further my mission and just help people, learn about their bodies. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you in the next video, friends. Bye-bye.